All right, welcome back to another one. And today I just wanted to address an issue that has been quite common among a lot of clients that we've had over the recent months. They all seem to be coming in with this similar issue. And I went through this sort of trend when I was trying to get free from pornography addiction. So, just to bring you up to speed, I had a pornography addiction for about 17 years of my life. Started in the NoFap arc, right, as a lot of us do. And from there, I decided that I wanted to take this on and, stop watching porn, stop engaging in pornography, right? Learning about all the benefits that you could sort of get of stopping. And I think the NoFap Reddit was quite famous for this, right? And so I was on there reading all the comments, reading all the benefits, all the tips that people had here and there in order to stop watching porn, right? And lo and behold, I found that it was quite difficult, as a lot of us do. And long story short, the addiction per se, a lot more of a stronger hold on me. And I think a lot of us go into this situation not really expecting it, not being equipped to deal with it. Anyway, so I was in at that stage for 4 years, like doing this stuff like counting streaks, being in that mentality of living streak to streak. My self-worth was dependent and contingent upon how long I could stay off pornography. Let's say it was 6 or 7 days, stuff like that, right? So by 2020, I decided to get a bit more serious. It's time to invest a bit. And so it was 2020 when I joined my first ever high ticket paid program dedicated to stopping pornography addiction. So my first paid program in trying to solve this problem. Overall, I would say that it was a pretty good experience pertaining to the people that I would meet and the coaching staff. Everyone had like stories that were really relatable. The coach was really good to me and a lot of the other guys, and it was sort of beneficial in terms of opening your lens, planting that seed in terms of self-improvement and self-growth, and being able to sort of stretch out into other areas of life, see where you can improve. The main thing though is that I wanted to join this paid program in order to stop my pornography use and stay stopped, because as we know, it just takes such a mental toll on you. Maybe you're someone who they were just watching stuff that didn't align with their sexual tastes anymore, and this is very common. So this was the position that I was in. It was just had my bad mental health, and it was dragging me down. And it was one of those situations where even though my life was improving year by year over time, I still wasn't able to shake this bad habit off. And so what would happen is every sort of win I would have would be dampened down. The feeling of winning in life would be blunted by the fact that I knew that I was going to relapse to porn every time. So I just didn't know how to stop. I didn't really know where to start with it. So I was hoping that this paid program would be the sort of thing to do that. So I've been through two paid programs in total, one in 2020 and then one in 2024. So the one in 2020, there was a lot of stuff involved in this program, right? There were weekly calls, you were assigned an accountability partner, there were modules you can watch, the stuff that you'd expect to find in a paid program. And although a lot of the intention and a lot of the information in there perhaps was useful to a certain extent as it pertains to self-improvement, because in the end of the day I felt that it was more of a self-improvement program rather than something that was sort of targeted to actually stop pornography addiction. It was almost as if it was a self-improvement program wrapped in a sort of package of stopping pornography. That's how I look back on it anyway. And as I was saying, although a lot of the skills that I learned there perhaps were useful in other areas of life, I still kept relapsing. I was still in that no-fap mindset of counting days subconsciously, even though coaching staff was saying, listen, counting days is the way to go. But ultimately, I just didn't stop. And every time I was winning within the program, a relapse would happen, and I just felt crap about it. And I would, be in and out of the program because I was in there for quite a long time. I think it was in there for about 12 months, which was really good. But again, it was in and out, in and out. What was hard for me is that I was not able to sort of ascertain how the tools within the program would actually help me. There was sort of this approach to the problem where you would want to solve your feelings and so perhaps trauma in your past life. And so there was like this daily morning ritual where I would have to note down what we felt in the morning and reflect upon that, and track that every day. And I thought that was sort of an intuitive approach at the start. Knowing what I know now, I understand why that wasn't as effective as I expected it to be, but we live and we learn. So there was that. Then there was the fact that you get assigned accountability partner. And on the surface, it sounded very intuitive at the time, because it's like, well, you have an accountability partner, you can share with them, you can, call them up when you're feeling like you're about to relapse. Again, this wasn't as effective as I thought it would be. Usually the accountability partner wasn't available at the time. And even if they were, sometimes it's like, well, I'm feeling the urge. And so you reach out to them, and then it's like, okay, maybe you sort of chatted to them and chat through the urge and you didn't end up engaging. But then perhaps an hour later, you then felt the urge again. And then that sort of thinking, the addictive thinking kicks in, and think, well, I don't want to bother them, I just called them, etc. Because this is how the nature of being in the addiction works. Like this, being in the addiction, as Mary Paulus likes to put it, is being like in a full-time job. There's the engaging part of the addiction, but there's also all the other mental conflict that you have to deal with. The loss of time, the loss of self-integrity once you've relapsed, the demoralization after a relapse, and all that stuff that you have to deal with. It really gets on top of you. On top of this, there were other worksheets that we have to fill in order to sort of track our victories for the week and the month, etc. Sort of stacking up the wins. And again, it's good winning, but when you're relapsing and you're in that state of addiction, everything feels a bit numb. Everything feels very sort of dull, because you're in that state of helplessness and hopelessness, because you just didn't have this area figured out. So that really sucked. And again, there was also the weekly calls that you could join. They were very useful. You could connect with other guys and the coach, of course. And that was good because you learned sort of skills in other areas of life. But as it pertains to, stopping the addiction and staying stopped, and how to deal with the first person experience that you're feeling when you're in the urge, when you're feeling that discomfort, there didn't seem to be this sort of systemized approach to it, or at least it was hard for me to ascertain such a system, such a methodology of how to sort of deal with these moments. And again, on top of this, it's sort of like you're going through this program and you're paying all this money, and yeah, money is one thing about it. I mean, when you're free of this compulsion, you're not really thinking about the price per se. You're just really grateful to be out of the compulsion once you're able to stop correctly and handle urges as they come up in an efficient way, in a systemized way. You sort of spent all this money and you kind of don't have anything to show for it. And then that thought comes up where you're thinking, well, I've actually gone through the program. I've not stopped the habit. I've not stopped relapsing. And you just feel that at the end of it, you come out the other end feeling that there's just something wrong with you, because this program didn't work. Maybe you're just a special case, and all this sort of self-talk hits you after the fact. It's really not good, and it's really sort of this mental rut that you're put into. And I feel that although the program perhaps helped me again in other areas, I still came out the other side of the program in a state where I was still struggling with this problem. I wasn't able to stop, and I, more importantly, wasn't able to stay stopped, which was the goal in the first place. And so again, it really takes a toll on your mental health and the way that you see yourself, and you're thinking, damn, like, why can't I figure this out? Why am I this sort of special case in this situation? So you feel, once you've exited the program, that you're in a bit of a worse off position, because you're still in the rut, and this program didn't work for you. So you go back into the whole nofap situation, trying to keep searching for answers, perhaps looking elsewhere. Your mind is on, okay, maybe I need to go to therapy, maybe I need to do like better in business, or I need to do better in my fitness, because it's sort of like, okay, maybe I need to search for a purpose or whatever. Bottom line is, you just feel a lot worse off. So in 2024, I joined a second program. Again, the guys were really nice. The coach was friendly. It was good to talk to somebody. But again, it was sort of like, once you're in there and once you're in the group, you're sort of sharing your experiences about being in the addiction, but there wasn't any sort of targeted understanding or this targeted systemized approach to sort of tackling the issue head on, tackling the issue at its core. And so again, I found myself in another program where we were sort of focusing on other areas of life, such as your fitness, such as your relationship, such as talking about your past and processing emotions and the likes, but not really hitting the nail on the head in terms of when you have an urge, how to deal with it. And I think the answer from that program was, you just have to willpower it out. You just have to stick it through. You just have to, go perhaps lock yourself in a room and just hope that you're going to be okay at the end of it and just sort of stick it out like that. Didn't ever work for me. And, lo and behold, I did end up engaging and I was sort of back to square one. And also in that program, similar to the previous one that I mentioned, blockers were something that was encouraged and installed. In fact, in this second program, again, I just found my way around blockers. The urge was just too compelling. And I felt that, damn, like not even blockers can stop me. Nothing can stop me from trying to access pornography. I must be super addicted. I must be super out of control. There must be something wrong with me. And so I exited that program as well, feeling hopeless, feeling helpless, feeling that, what was the answer? Why can't I figure this out? And again, it just put me in a place where I was just even worse off, still counting days, using willpower, still just feeling crap about myself. Even if I was to improve other areas, I was just feeling so helpless about it because I just didn't understand how it all worked. I didn't understand the answers. Obviously, when I met Tom Molyneux, Mary Paulus, all of that changed, and hence now I'm an affiliate for them. Now I'm trying to help guys to get on this same path and really able to have a robust understanding of the problem and why all this stuff happens and why the addiction works the way it does, and to navigate that first person experience of it to stop, and more importantly, stay stopped, having self-integrity back, having peace of mind back, being in a position where you're just going back into a rut, feeling helpless, feeling hopeless, that you can never stop this situation. So yeah, at the start of 2025, I was making a few calls here and there to see if I could find another program that would work for me, because in the end of the day, listen, I wasn't willing to give up on this problem. I wasn't willing to give up on the situation. I just really wanted it cleared out of my life. So third time lucky, I went through BCA, the program that I'm affiliate for now, try to help as many guys as I can. So I just want to set the record straight in perhaps where I was at, and hopefully you can relate to it. So the first thing I want to mention is that you've been engaging for years and years since you were a child, right? Which was my situation. So about the age of 12 or 13, a lot of guys are younger, maybe 8 or 9 years old. They've been in this situation, been in this addiction since young, right? And the important thing is that you're not even problem aware for a lot of that time. Perhaps you turn 16 or 17 and you realize, damn, I'm addicted, and it's actually a problem, and I recognize that. But for a lot of that time, you don't even recognize it until it's developed and you realize that I'm really having a hard time stopping watching porn. So just to set the preface, I just want you to understand that there's nothing wrong with you. If you grew up in the Western world, pornography is very rampant, it's very normalized. Sexualization of society is the norm. Again, is that there's nothing wrong with you. It's very likely that you've been conditioned into this situation, as all of us that have gone through BCA have, and as the majority of the guys that went through the other programs that I've mentioned have also as well, and including the whole NoFap community. Obviously, it's not a peaceful situation when you're in the addiction, but just that part, just accept the part that, listen, there's nothing wrong with you for being in the addiction. It's a very normal thing nowadays. So second of all, you've tried years and years with all these things, all these methods, trying to stop. So NoFap, perhaps you're like me, I went through other paid programs, trying to find the right help through different approaches, therapy, self-improvement, replacement behaviors, exercise, you name it. And what we all tend to find out is that these things don't address the core mechanism of the addiction directly. They're all very indirect ways of tackling the addiction head on. Because when you're in those moments of compulsive desire, when those urges are really strong and you're really wanting to watch porn, it's those critical moments which the thinking needs to be invoked, the correct mindset, the correct methodology of what to do in that situation that needs to happen in those moments. The number one thing that keeps the addiction alive is engaging in the behavior, not necessarily all these other different aspects of your life, not even triggers, not even blockers, not even all the rest of it. It's engaging in the addiction, which is reinforcing those neural pathways, keeping you in the addiction. So the goal here is to address the addiction directly, address the addicted neural pathways, the pathways of pornography, neural pathways of pornography dependency directly. So number 3, just to emphasize this point again, the key here is to connect with the desire when it comes up in the correct way, in an efficient way, a systematic way which covers all of these bases on the mental level, leading you to a position where you can stop and stay stopped. A lot of the time when we're feeling all these urges, there's a million thoughts going through our head. A lot of helplessness, a lot of hopelessness, a lot of images of the videos that we've watched before, all the images that we've seen. All these different thoughts and feelings can come up in the situation. It can feel very overwhelming, which is why the urge can feel really strong and really fast in those moments. And so the key is to have a system where you can deal with all these things in the moment and have the education and the correct sort of mental software installed in order to understand what can come up, what can happen, how these things are working. And so number 4, at BCA, we have the tools, we have the education, everything that you need to achieve exactly that. Stop and stay stopped. And I just want to emphasize, it takes work, it takes repetition, but it is a system, it is a targeted system, it is a simple system that you can repeat over and over and over and over again without having to sort of look in this area, look at that area, go back into your past, go into the future, fix this area, fix that other area. It's just focusing on the addiction intentionally, directly, and in a very targeted manner. Now, if you are like myself, I know that hearing all this stuff can bring up even more doubt because it's like, okay, here's another video telling me I should do this. And so what I would say to you is there's a link in the description below. I am available to talk about these doubts for this reason. I know how important it is for you to actually get past this. I was once there. Years and years of engaging, taking the toll on you. So what I would say is if you are interested in booking a call with me, have a list of questions to ask me, to really grill me on the matter, on the topic, on the program, on the methodology that I want to sort of introduce you to in order to have you certain and sure that this is something for you. Bring any question you need to ask, bring any doubts that you want addressed. I'll be there to answer them. Click on the link in the description to take you to the addiction quiz. From the results, you'll know whether you have a compulsive behavior with porn or not. You don't have to opt in for further interest in BCA, and we'll just send you over the test results to your email.